What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Shots from the Winchester Podcast, brought to you by Greencastle Consulting. I'm your host, Al Green, and today is the 100th episode of Shots from the Winchester, so you know this one's going to be special. Greencastle Consulting has been producing Shots from the Winchester since 2020. We've seen a myriad of guests from all over, all walks of industry, all walks of life. We've had baseball legends like Larry Bowa, Ed Wade, Ruben Amaro Jr. We've had actors like filmmaker and actor Remy Adelaki. We've had comedians like Kurt Metzger and Jeff Arcuri. We've had astronauts like Chris Cassidy, Navy SEAL and combat stories from people like John Allen and Alan Mack. Besides interviewing our own people here at Greencastle, because everyone here is a veteran, everyone here is a military veteran or active service member, we also interview leaders of industry, CEOs of large companies, people that are doing amazing things. We like to think of Shots from the Winchester as a leadership podcast, but we like to have fun. So if you're military, active military, or a veteran, and if you're a leader of industry, CEO, manager, whatever level you're at, this is the podcast for you. So this week, I isolated a handful of episodes from all the different hosts, from John, from myself, from Lindsay, that I thought were worthy of a recap. One of my favorite episodes was where Lindsay interviewed Joe Crandall, the CEO of Greencastle. Check this out.
A buddy of mine from the Navy had been working at a company called Get Well Network, and they were looking for some sales guys, and they were a startup. And they had just hired this new sales manager, and he loved everything about my resume except for the Navy, except for the Pfizer part. So he's like pointing at my resume. He's like, "Joe, I love everything except for this." So I just went like this. I went, "Okay, don't worry about that." And he liked that, you know. And so he hired me, and I ended up selling software systems to hospitals for a few years. And when I was doing that, hold on. I'm getting a little thirsty.
If the listeners can't see this, he's just, I'm assuming that that's not Woodford.
Good. Save a little for later. So I was selling software systems, and burns a little bit. And I just
Woodford?
Yes, of course it is. And so I just sold the largest software system in the company's history at the time, and the implementation was going to shit, right? And Steve Hess, who was the CIO, was like, "Don't worry about it, Joe. I'll bring in my military guys, and they'll figure it out." And I'm like, "Military guys? I'm military, you know." Mm-hmm. And in walked these two Greencastle consultants, you know, just perfect, you know, specimens of consultants, you know, perfectly built, perfect suits, perfect everything, and walk in, and they start just creating structure from the chaos that existed. And I was like, I got to know these guys. And that was probably late 2008, early 2009. And so not knowing anything about them, I got on the interwebs, and they had a crappy little website. And but I got the address, and so I got in my suit, and I drove up here to Malvern, which was about an hour drive from my house. And they didn't have a spot. And so finally, Selwyn called me. Actually, Hamish called me and said, we want to bring you on board as a director of client engagement services, you know, to run the sales and marketing stuff. And so it was perfect timing. But that had taken about 3 years. So 2012, I got hired here.
So before we wrap up, I want to get to two fun facts you told me.
Okay.
I'm looking to hear a little bit more about these. So,
all right, hold on.
That has to be something else. He's chugging from a bottle of Woodford. If you're listening, you'll have to look at the video. It's either
Saturday night in the Teams. All right, what's your question?
So you grew up riding horses on the...
Yeah, that one here.
On the Ponderosa Ranch from
Correct.
Bonanza.
Yep.
Tell us about that. Like,
yeah, so I grew up in Incline Village, Nevada, and very small town of permanent residents. I think like 2,500 permanent residents. But where I grew up, across the freeway, was the actual ranch where they filmed part of the show, and they had stables there. And I befriended a kid whose family ran the stables, and for about a year and a half, we would just go ride horses, and it was just a great time. I mean, it was we were think of of the equivalent of kids on motorbikes, except these things, would kick you and do their own thing. But it was a lot of fun. You learned how to deal with big animals, and it was just very interesting to be able to ride around the mountains of Tahoe on horses.
So
one of the hottest episodes that we've had on our channel was the episode where John Kleck interviewed B. Allen, or John Allen. What an amazing episode, because you get to learn so much about his journey as well as some of the things he went through while he was in the military. Check this out.
We were stationed in this area in Afghanistan where basically across the road, there was like one paved road in Afghanistan, so Route Utah. We were on one side of the road, and on the other side was this like bad guy town, for lack of a better description. And we regularly went in there. It was just, that was the place we went in because there was always something happening in there. And we'd been going in there for like 5 months. And every time we went in there, we would just get shot at. It was like they'd see us coming. There was no way to show up without giving away your position. And so we went in one day.
You had been going in there every month or every day for 5 months. So they kind of were like, hey, I think the Americans want to come fight.
Yeah, pretty much. And so this one day we go in, it was just like this weird day where it was broad daylight, and we get into this, it's like the section of the town, which was walled in. So we were kind of like hidden. And we ended up putting ourselves in a position where we got out and we moved into like the side of the town. And there was all these fighters in the second floor of these buildings, but they weren't engaging us. They were just watching us. And we kind of put ourselves in this very perilous situation where we had moved up far enough away from the vehicles where back to them, we would be exposed to these guys in the second floor that we didn't see until we got up to this wall. And so we're like at the standstill where we're kind of like hoping they shoot us so we can open up our rules of engagement so we can like shoot back, because we can't until they start shooting at us. And so for like 40.
Did anybody take like a helmet and put it like on a broomstick?
Yeah,
see if it gets shot at?
And so we were like laying down behind this wall, and we're like, fuck, like, what do we do? And finally the decision was made, like, if we go back, there's a good chance one of us gets shot. And it's so stupid to like, all right, we're just gonna walk backwards with our back to the enemy. And so we're like, all right, we're gonna assault through. And so we walked into the courtyard. There was like the worst place you could go. There was nowhere else we could go. We had to walk straight into this courtyard. It's all on body cam too, and it's eerie footage. We walk into this courtyard and it's like quiet, but what you don't see in the video is like lining the walls in the second floor are fighters that we know are there. And so we're just like walking in, getting ready to get shot at, and then they opened up on us. And in the first volley of fire, this sounds horrible, but no Americans got shot. Some of our partner force did, and they were okay. Everybody lived. But in the initial volley, all the SEALs were okay. And so we took to the buildings, and it turned into this like pretty long gunfight. Our dog got shot too, but our dog survived. And so we're like fighting like rooftop to rooftop, and it's fairly close combat. It was like kind of the whole time I was there, this was by far the most intense thing I was a part of, except for what happens in about a couple hours after this. And so we have this like all day long kind of like, you know how it is. It's not like we're literally engaging the enemy for like 6 hours. It was like sporadic for about 6 hours. And then like by the evening time, the fighting had kind of just stopped abruptly. It was dark out, and it was like everybody had just disappeared. And it was like very anticlimactic, because we're in the middle of this like Rambo-esque gunfight all day, and then like suddenly everyone's gone, and we kind of got our ass kicked. We had like 5 medevacs going out, and we're like, damn, like now what do we do?
We're pretty honored to have Alan Mack, who was one of the Army Special Operations Aviation Regiment, the 160th. He was a pilot on one of the helicopters that was involved in the battle, actually crashed twice over the course of a couple days, and yet kept going back in. He's got a wild story about what was going on, some stuff that if you read any of the books, he reveals stuff in this podcast that I never knew.
So I nose it over and I dive down the mountain. It's called an auto rotation. I'm going to land, basically I'm going to crash land at the bottom of the hill using stored up rotor RPM, kinetic energy. And as I'm diving down, the crew chiefs come back up on the intercom, and now we're talking, and they're like, yeah, we both engines are running, don't go to the floor, right? So I level out. Sure enough, we're doing okay. I have no displays, so now I'm looking out the window looking for visual landmarks. And it's like, oh, there's the whale, there's the battle going on, and I'll just go north of that. So I turn around and they go, hey, by the way, we had somebody fall out. We level out, and they tell me that we had somebody fall out on the landing zone, which was Roberts.
Yeah.
And this is the insanity of the situation. This is my first real pitched battle, and I said, that didn't happen. Get a head count.
Yeah.
And the guys are like, we watched him go out. I had my hands on him. He went out and said, get a head count. So yeah, okay, we got 10 people, whatever. And so I said, all right, well, we got to go back and get him. And then I was reminded that we didn't have any defensive armament. We did have an M60 in the back right window, which is an older machine gun.
Yes.
7.62, and the crew chief did put some suppressive fire down in the turn, and then it had no longer any good as far as the angle. And so we're going to go back in now with no automatic flight control system. The engines are in reversionary. There's no electrical power, no guns, and we're going to go back and get him. So Madden is crucial, right? So Madden is, as we take off, he gets shot in the head, in the helmet, actually, right?
Oh, wow.
Which is where we thought a second RPG had come from, right? And really what it was is a AK-47 round lodged in the styrofoam of his helmet, right? It's just a plastic helmet, right? And we didn't find that till after we got back to Bagram. He goes, hey, look at my helmet. This is what knocked me down.
This was a fun episode because this is one of the first times that I started actually hosting on the podcast. And this was my interviewing Lindsay.
First of all, let's talk about Greencastle. How did you get involved? How did you find Greencastle?
Yeah, funny story. So Greencastle actually found me. So I was working at a software company doing marketing, and I got a message on LinkedIn one day from one of our recruiters, and he was like, hey, we're hiring for a marketing director, or actually it said a marketing person. Let me know if you're interested. And I really wasn't looking for a job at the time. So I responded. I was like, yeah, I'm curious. I'm not really sure what this place is. Took a look online, and I was like, huh. Veteran owned and operated.
Yeah.
I mean, 100%. Everybody's a veteran. Yep. Right down the road from me, Malvern. I was like, okay, I'm interested. So, had a couple interviews on the phone, then came in, and that was like the hook, right? Yeah. Hook, line, and sinker. Here, come in, look at the bar, and all the really cool amenities we have in the office. Meet all the really awesome people, and that's that's how it started. Just 7 months ago. Wow. Yes. Not that long ago.
Yeah. So as the marketing team is new here at Greencastle. But we're definitely making waves. We're definitely growing, especially and under Lindsay's leadership. That's another thing I want to talk to you about. You're the only female on the SLT right now, right?
Yeah. Yes, I am. Yeah. So I think last I checked, there might be 12 females total in the company, and that's, to give the audience context, I mean, that's really because you're pulling from a group of people who are, military, and that's widely men, largely men. Yeah. So that's why there's so few females here. Not that we don't want them, if you're out there and you're interested, send us a message. But 1 of 12. Yeah. But yes, the only one on the SLT.
Nice. So another thing I wanted to ask you, so you do have the military background. So you chose something different. A lot of people, when they come out or they go into the military, they come out of high school or something like that. But you chose to go in a little later. You chose in your 30s. Like, what was the thought behind that?
Yeah, so I had spent most of my life, and I was like a full-blown adult at that point, 30 years old. I'd spent most of my life kind of doing social work and behavioral health work, so working with children and families, really, that needed counseling, that were struggling with like mental health issues. So I did that for a really long time, and I did love it, but it was very taxing, like emotionally, just very draining, and a lot of long hours. You're on call. So I decided that I needed a hard reset. And honestly, if you listen back to the Anthony Berg podcast, I did allude to this. I was sitting in front of my television one day, and like any good marketing campaign, there was a commercial on TV that said, hey, Army National Guard. And I was like, I'd always wanted to do that. My dad being a police officer growing up, I had always wanted to kind of serve in some way. And I thought maybe now's the time. So I reached out to somebody I knew who was in the Guard, who put me in touch with a recruiter. The recruiter thought I was crazy. He's like, 30, I think you have a master's degree and like a job and you're like a full adult and you're just like gonna, and I was like, I want to do it. I want to try something new. I want to do it before it's too late, because there's like obviously an age cutoff. So I enlisted and I went to basic training at the age of 30. And that was an experience.
That's awesome, though. And we're here today. We're not at the Winchester, as you can see, if you're watching this on video. We're not at the Winchester. We're actually in Ryan Gooch Nelson's music studio. Now, Ryan Gooch Nelson is a music producer. You have a foundation. Tell people about yourself.
I'm a man of many hats. I have a foundation called the Music and Motion Foundation. I'm an artist. I play slide guitar and harmonica and sing blues and all kinds of different styles, Americana, and I'm getting into some newer stuff we can talk about later. But I'm also a music producer, and as your lovely wife will tell you, I'm also a model. So she always tells me to throw that in there, so I gotta throw it in there. I've done some modeling. I'm not a professional, but I'm an amateur model. So
you went through some depression.
Yeah,
you went through some dark spots.
Definitely. I mean, like, they would try and put the guitar on my lap, and I would just start crying.
Yeah.
So I'm actually paralyzed from about the chest down. Bottoms of my arms, my hands kind of move like this, but then, it gets real bluesy, like.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, man. So like,
nice.
The blues just came out of me, man. I was like in so much pain and sadness and suffering I'd been through, and just like something about very vocal, and like I could sing through it. And now at that time, I didn't start singing until like 10 years after my accident.
Wow.
So I've only been singing for, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years. I was in a band, 61 North, as you remember.
Right. We did a music video together down at the Queen in Wilmington.
Yep. And so I didn't even sing in that band really.
No.
So, and I was in that band for 8 years, and then that's when I kind of jumped off and started doing my own thing with Gooch and Emotion.
Right, right. If you're new to Shots from the Winchester, make sure you hit that subscribe button and hit the bell so that you get notifications when we have new content. Make sure to hit the like button and leave a comment so we can continue to bring you content that you enjoy. I'll see you in the next episode.